Hey folks, how's it going today? My name is Roshan. Welcome to my channel, and today I think I have an interesting topic that a lot of you will either love or hate based on which side of the camp you're on. But I think that hopefully I will share a perspective that is helpful and maybe insightful, and maybe will give you a cause for thinking and deciding on your choice. So today I'm here to talk about the next generation of consoles. Specifically, I am here to talk about my preferences. Now, in the past, if you've seen videos of me in the past on Gooply, you probably heard that I am looking very forward to the PlayStation 4. I'm very positive about the PlayStation 4. Now, upon more study and upon more research, and just with the passing of time, I think that between Microsoft's Xbox One and Sony's PlayStation 4, I could be back to not exactly being convinced of one over the other, or maybe even being convinced more to get the Xbox as opposed to the PlayStation 4. Weird, I know. I know that that is not a popular stance right now with the mainstream gamer right now. But let me share a little bit about why. Now, before I could give you any reason to make you believe that I am an Xbot or an Xbox fanboy, let me share this. I will go ahead and tell you that I am an Xbox 360 gamer right now, but I also have a PlayStation 3 and I game on that as well. So I'm kind of platform agnostic this generation, I guess. But my preference, if you were to ask me to pick between two, would be the 360. But anyway, coming into this generation of consoles, I really, it was excited to hear what the PlayStation 4 had to say, and what the Xbox One had to say. PlayStation 4, the announcement came out in February. They shared a little bit about the architecture of the console. They shared a little bit about the revamped controller, the DualShock 4. They showcased at least one game. They could have showcased more, but anyway, they did not reveal the hardware at that event. So that was kind of interesting. Kind of left me, begging for more, or at least yearning for more. So that was kind of February of this year. Now, come May, and the time for Microsoft's Xbox One reveal, I was excited to kind of see. I enjoyed Xbox 360 pretty well, and I was excited to see what Microsoft was going to do with the next generation. I believe, at least here in North America, they have a lot of momentum going for themselves because Xbox 360 decisively has done somewhat better than the PlayStation 3, at least in terms of sales here. May not be worldwide. I believe worldwide the PlayStation 3 has sold more. But I'm just sticking to North America for now. But anyway, I was excited to see what Microsoft has in store. Now, at the reveal of the Xbox One, let me say that Microsoft bombshelled it. I mean, they completely, could have done better with their messaging. And I could just think of 100 ways they could have gone that did not have to go the way that they did. And why I say that, I mean, if you're a gamer, you probably already watched the reveal. But in short, the Xbox One reveal spent very little time focusing on games or the gamer in relation to a lot of the other stuff that's going to be on the Xbox One. In fact, they happen to highlight TV and the ability to watch live television and do HDMI pass-through on the console. They decided to focus more on that, as well as a collaboration with NFL to allow for fantasy football on the Xbox One. And also talking a lot about just how different apps run on the new system, including Skype and the new Kinect. They just did not focus on the gamer, which, for being a gaming console that should have been their primary focus on the very first revealing of this new generation of systems. So they completely butchered that. A lot of gamers, including myself, left upset or just really confused as to what Microsoft was doing. So right out of the gate, they were stumbling a little bit. Now, that's in May. So what Microsoft came back and said in return to all the gamers that were disappointed is, wait for E3. That's where we're going to talk about the games. So let's go to E3. So between E3 and the reveal, so the time between then, there's been a lot of rumors rising up regarding these new digital rights management policies that are going to be in place, possibly on both systems. So there were concerns about, this may be the generation of consoles that used games are no longer going to be playable, or this is going to be the generation of consoles that you're going to have to stay plugged in on the internet always, so that Microsoft can combat piracy, or whatever reason they have for that. But there were just a lot of these rumors kind of surfacing both around Microsoft and Sony, and the gamer demographic was unsure as to what was going to go on, and they were concerned about this. And just a few days, if I'm not wrong, before the E3 conference, Microsoft came out with a blog post posting all the different policies that are going to be in place with the Xbox One. You probably know this again if you're a gamer, so if you're a gamer, I apologize. I know I'm giving a lot of hindsight here. I just want to give perspective so that I can give you an understanding of why I've reached the conclusion to where I'm at. But yes, there was a blog post. Microsoft shared its DRM policies. The two biggest policies I would say that were controversial were, one, used games were not, it was hard to be able to trade in or sell used games, because you are able to switch a game from one gamer to another only once before it stayed permanently with the user of that game. So basically, used games were pretty much looking like they were going to be nixed, at least on the Xbox side. The other controversial policy that a lot of people had flagged was the always online rule. And I shouldn't say always online, but that was pretty much it. Basically, Microsoft said you had to connect to the internet every 24 hours, at least once, on your home console, because if you don't, then your console would stop operating. And that was probably the worst of the DRM policies that gamers did not take much to, because man, gamers, while many people complain that they're very very against change and not a big fan of that, fan of changing the way they do things, but they were more riled up over the fact that what if one day we don't have a great internet connection, or what if something happens and we just happen to have a crappy internet connection, or what happens in the future when the Xbox One console is gone and the next generation has come up. Do all the game do the servers of Xbox One go down and Xbox One is no longer a playable console? So there were just all these wild concerns, and I think well thought concerns about the Xbox One, and this is again one of those things I can't really nail down on whether Xbox direction was good or bad. I've heard good reasoning for why the bold direction they were trying to take would be good for gamers and why it would be bad for gamers. I'm not going to get into that argument, but one thing is for sure: Microsoft did not communicate their message across clearly, because obviously it ignited a lot of outrage from the gamers, and that was the state coming into E3. Now at Microsoft's E3, I won't get into the details of it, but in short, they showed a few decent, great games. I think definitely redeemed themselves a little bit from their reveal, but they did not choose to address the DRM policies at all. So let's switch over to Sony's E3, so that we can just compare the two. Now, in Sony's E3, they also did come out with a few games. They really highlighted independent game support, game development support. So that was kind of their big highlight, I would say. And Sony also made it a point to let people know there's not going to be any sort of DRM policies on the PS4. And that got gamers excited. You should have heard the cheering in the from the audience, and that really was a telling moment. And I just knew that, that policy that Microsoft was trying to instill would probably not stay for long with that kind of outrage against it. And anyway, the big thing coming from E3 between Microsoft and Sony was that Sony kind of came out as the white knight because they don't have any of these DRM policies. As to whether they were really being a white knight or taking advantage of marketing, again, that's up to fanboys to argue about. But the idea was people came out, and PlayStation 4 was the favorite coming out of E3. I wouldn't say in terms of games it beat Microsoft's lineup. Some would argue they were even. Some would even argue they're better, but I would say that the collection of new games for the Xbox just seemed more vibrant. Now again, that's just one conference. That could all change in a year. So I'm not going to get too held up on that point. But interestingly, a couple of weeks after E3, probably one of the quickest changes I've seen done by a corporation, Microsoft chooses to reverse the two most controversial policies, the DRM-based policies, involving the use of used games, along with the always online no longer being needed. And I think that really brought back the momentum for the Xbox and really repairing some of the damage that they've done through their communication, or lack of communication rather, so far. So we have, at this point, we have the Sony PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. That's all just history, perspective, kind of leading us up to this point. Actually, one more thing I probably should add is PlayStation 4 came out at E3 being kind of the platform for independent developers to go to, because the PlayStation 4 is going to have self-publishing. Well, again, this is one of those things that Microsoft later on revealed just a few weeks ago, actually, that they are also going to support independent game development and making it pretty simple. And there's even, I don't know if this is confirmed yet or not, but there's even a rumor going around that every Xbox One is going to be able to be a developer's kit, which would make indie game development very accessible on the Xbox One. So I would say that's definitely equal to Sony's PlayStation 4 on that realm. So really, now as we come to Xbox One and PlayStation 4, let's talk about what's different then, because a lot of it is similar. So we gotta go look at what's different and make our decisions based on that. So let's look at one big aspect, I would argue, is the controller. We have the Xbox One controller and the PlayStation 4 controller. The Xbox One controller looks like it's going to be very similar to the 360 controller. Not a lot of changes there. In fact, probably the two most prominent changes that you would notice if you use the 360 controller is that the battery bump, as many people say, on the back of the controller on the 360 will no longer be there on the Xbox One. I think that's pretty neat. They actually are going to incorporate the battery port right into the controller without the battery bump. So that's great. The battery bump wasn't really a big deal to me. I did not feel like it was in the way when I'm gaming. But I will like it because it will reduce the weight of the controller. So that's one thing on the Xbox One. The other big deal on the Xbox One controller is that the left and right triggers now are contoured, are are shaped to fit onto the contours or the curves of your fingers, so making it a little more comfortable to hold on to. Also, there's supposed to be two rumble motors on each trigger, meaning that when you're using those triggers, developers can choose to take advantage of vibration. So hey, when you're driving, maybe when you push the throttle completely, you may get some vibration on just that trigger, or when you're shooting a gun, you may get just some force feedback on just one of the triggers. So just a small little addition there to add to the experience. So those are probably the big Xbox One controller highlights. Not a big difference there. Let's look at the PlayStation 4. Now the PlayStation 4 controller takes probably the biggest jump of a change when it comes to the PlayStation line of controllers. If you look at the PlayStation 2, and the PlayStation 3 controller, there was hardly any change between them in terms of their shape and size and button configuration. Probably the only difference is the PlayStation 3 had triggers that you could actually pull down on, which did not exist in the previous PlayStation controllers, and it had 6-axis, which is motion control built into the controller, but pretty much the same. The PlayStation 4 controller, the DualShock 4, however, takes kind of a little bit more of a radical change. What I mean by this is the DualShock 4 is, for one, going to be slightly bigger than the PlayStation controller. That's good news if you're someone like me that has big hands and find that the PlayStation controllers as of now are a little small for your liking. Another big difference of the DualShock 4 is that it is going to incorporate a touchpad in the center of the controller, and that it's interesting to see that that's put there. It's kind of a pretty big change, obviously, from controllers in the past of Sony. We'll have to wait and see how that ends up being beneficial for gameplay. I don't want to make any reservations or make any opinions on that just yet. So, but it's just an interesting addition. I think probably more out of the box than Xbox One's controller. The triggers on the PlayStation 4 controller will be concave facing out, which is good because that'll make it more easier to grip onto, which some people did not like the PlayStation 3 triggers because they curved in, so making it easy to slip your fingers on them. So those are controllers. Those are big differences there. I would say probably PlayStation 4 has the leg up on the controller side because its gamepad seems to be more out of the box or more non-conventional. But by no means is it a hands down PlayStation 4 controller is better. I haven't held either, so I can't say which one I would prefer more. So there's the controller, and the next biggest thing that most people will find that it's a glaring difference between the Xbox platform and the PlayStation platform for the next generation is, I believe, their online networks, their gaming networks. I think the controllers are the biggest difference. Yes, the Xbox has a Kinect and the PlayStation has a PlayStation Eye, but because the PlayStation Eye is not going to be made mandatory, I don't want to get into the argument of which one's better. But let's talk about the gaming networks. Now, this is where my dilemma lies. I come from the Xbox 360, like I mentioned earlier, and I personally am a huge multiplayer gamer. I'm not a Call of Duty fanboy. I actually don't care for Call of Duty that much. Yes, I play it sometimes. Yes, I might get on with friends if they really want me to, but I'm definitely not a Call of Duty fanboy. So, that's something I want to get you guys out of your head before I even start my point. But we have Xbox Live and we have PlayStation Network, and what I like about Xbox Live is I feel like the matchmaking and just the online services are just so much nicer and richer than the PlayStation Network. Now, the PlayStation Network, I believe, is a better value because Obviously, on the PlayStation 3, you can game for free. On the PlayStation 4, you're going to get PlayStation Plus if you want to play online, and it's still cheaper than Xbox Live because it's only $50 a year. Plus, you get a bunch of games and discounts for your subscription during its time. So that's the good news about PlayStation Network, is if you want value, PlayStation Network, PlayStation Plus won't let you down. But if you're serious about multiplayer, meaning you find yourself on multiplayer more than you do single player. I know I do. I actually rarely play single player campaigns. I love being social and connecting with others, whether it be in person or also on the consoles. So for me, I just feel like going from Xbox Live to PlayStation Network would be a step down. Because it's interesting. I do comparisons today of Max Payne 3, for example. I have both the PS3 version and the 360 version. I just happened to get it. It's interesting because it's one of those games that I look and you're able to tell how many people are online at that given moment playing the game. It was interesting. So I did this yesterday. PlayStation 3's copy of Max Payne 3 happened to have 600 something players on it, and when I go to matchmaking, it makes a match for me pretty quick and I'm in a game. I go to Xbox Live and I get on Max Payne 3, there's only about 300 something, so roughly only about as half as the PlayStation Network. I get into the game, I start gaming soon. Now here's the interesting difference that I found between the two, and I think it's really telling of Xbox Live versus PlayStation Network. The Xbox version of Max Payne 3 continually, no matter what game I joined at what time, continually put me in a game with close to 16 players, which is the maximum number of players you could have in the game mode I was playing. So there was no game I was playing of Max Payne that had lesser than 14 people, I would argue, out of the maximum 16 you can have. However, the same cannot be said about the PlayStation Network. On the PlayStation Network, I felt like the game a lot of the time started with just a handful of people, maybe about 7 or 8. And then if you are lucky over the course of the game, it would grow up to about 14 or 15. But that wasn't always the case. There were even some games of Max Payne 3 that I started with just 3 people. And this is supposed to be a game that up to 16 people can play. And I just find that very interesting when you compare the Xbox number of players versus the PlayStation number of players on that game. Even though Xbox had half the people, they still managed to make it seem more filled and just efficiently bring people together and do this matching. That really stood out to me. And as someone that has pre-ordered the PlayStation 4 because that was what I was gravitating towards, between the lower cost and the value of PlayStation Plus and the new controller. That's what I was leaning towards. But now, given the fact that, wow, Xbox Live has some tangible, clear ways that it's better, that, could be really important to me and could be could be something that I may end up being disappointed with PlayStation Network because of. And so, I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but my main thought is, if I'm going to go for the PlayStation 4, I want to make sure that the online services are great. And while I have no reason to think that it's not, because I'm hoping that Sony will revamp its efforts for online gaming this generation, and especially with the paid subscription, they'll be able to hopefully build better and bigger infrastructures. Xbox Live just seems generations ahead. Obviously, this could be because they've had Xbox Live for over 10 years at this point, and because of that, they already, they started this game a long time ago, so they're naturally going to be ahead of the game. Plus, they are a computer hardware and software company, so primarily, I would say, and they're more educated and more capable of building these infrastructures for online gaming than Sony is. So I just feel like Xbox Live is not going to be competed against when it comes to just the service of matchmaking and the service of connecting with others are concerned. I mean, I don't think Sony's going to do a bad job. I think they're going to do leaps and bounds better than they did with the PlayStation 3. But same can be said with Xbox One. They're going to take leaps and bounds over the Xbox 360. And we already know this with things like being able to play another game when you're waiting to be match made in a game that you're currently on. Or being able to, use Skype alongside playing a game. So things like that make me really kind of favor the Xbox One. So I would have to say, after all this lecture I've been giving, as someone that's pre-ordered the PlayStation 4, I am now second guessing myself. I'm going to be going to the Xbox One, giving it a hard look. I'll probably now have to wait till the consoles are out because I don't really want to. I don't really want to buy a new one and then regret it, because these are going to be long console cycles. So I want to make sure I'm having something for the long haul, at least to start out with. And so right now, I would say if you're a gamer and if you're on the fence between the two, and if you're a multiplayer gamer, you'll definitely want to take Xbox One more seriously than the PS4. By no means is PS4 an inferior device overall. I think it's a great competitive product. Its price point puts it in a very popular position as opposed to the Xbox One. And the fact that it doesn't require a Kinect, which that is probably my worst complaint about the Xbox One, is that it requires this additional accessory to always be plugged in. Besides that, I think you have two compelling products here, but definitely Xbox takes the lead when it comes to online multiplayer experiences. And so if that's what you're looking for, maybe the Xbox One's for you. So guys, those are my thoughts. I know I was really long-winded there. I went through a lot of stuff, but the main point in the end is, now that Microsoft's kind of undoing their PR disasters that they had, they've reversed kind of the unpopular stances. They're offering these great services and happen to be just growing better and better every day, or at least becoming more gamer-centric again. There's a serious contender to be seen in Xbox One, and who knows? I may end up canceling my pre-order for the PS4, and after comparing the two when they come out, I may decide on the Xbox One. But I will definitely try and keep you guys updated on my thoughts and my decisions as I go forward, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Thank you for listening to this very long explanation and very long commentary here. I'm afraid that I tend to be pretty wordy, so I apologize. But share with me your thoughts, guys. I really enjoy getting to connect with others. Like I said, I'm a social gamer, so if you're someone that has an idea, and even if you don't agree with me, even if you totally are opposed to what I mean, to what I say, please let me know, because I'd love to have a good, decent conversation and debate, maybe even, as long as it doesn't get too negative. Thank you guys, and have a good rest of your day. Please subscribe, and I will catch you guys later.